Ravenshade was a town that time had nearly erased. Its crooked alleys, ivy-covered houses, and fog-choked streets felt like pages from an old book, one that no one dared to finish reading. For centuries, it had been whispered that the town was cursed. Every few decades, when the church bells rang without a hand to move them, someone vanished. Detective Elias Moreau arrived from London after a report reached the Metropolitan Archives. A historian named Dr. William Harker had disappeared during his research into Ravenshade's medieval chapel. Locals refused to discuss it. The constable's only remark was, "When the bells ring at midnight, something ancient wakes." Elias had seen superstition cloud many investigations, but this one was different. There was no record of Ravenshade's chapel even existing in official archives, only fragments in forgotten parish books. The arrival Elias reached Ravenshade near dusk. The cobblestone road wound through fog and skeletal trees. His carriage driver, a local man, refused to go beyond the inn. "I don't drive past the hollow," he said. "Not after dark. The bells will be ringing soon." The Ravenshade Inn stood like a relic, its wood darkened by centuries of damp, the smell of smoke and old oil hanging in the air. Inside, Elias met Clara Whitby, the innkeeper. Her eyes darted nervously to the window whenever the wind brushed against the panes. "You're here about the historian," she said. "He came asking questions no one should ask." "What kind of questions?" Elias pressed. "About the bells, about the chapel, about the voices that sing before dawn." Elias felt a chill, though the fire crackled warmly behind him. "Voices?" Clara hesitated, then whispered. "He said the church wasn't built by men. It was built for something else." The chapel on the hill. The next morning, Elias set out toward the ruins of the chapel. The fog never lifted. It only grew denser the closer he got. The path wound through graves so old their names had worn away. The chapel stood at the hilltop, a small Gothic structure half sunk into the earth. The bell tower still stood tall, though its ropes had long rotted. Inside, the air was cold and heavy with the scent of decay. Elias found signs of Dr. Harker's visit, notes scattered across the pews, a journal open to a half-written page. The words were shaky. "The bells are not merely sound. They are a call. They were never meant to summon the faithful, but to contain what sleeps beneath." Elias pried open a trap-door near the altar, revealing a stone staircase spiraling into darkness. He descended slowly, the air thick with damp earth and an odd metallic tang. At the bottom, he discovered a subterranean crypt, rows of ancient sarcophagi and strange carvings along the walls. They weren't Christian symbols. They looked older, runes shaped like eyes, mouths, and circles of chains. One sarcophagus had been opened recently. Inside, instead of bones, there was a bronze bell, small enough to hold in one hand, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to shift when he stared too long. The whispering bell that night, Elias stayed at the inn, studying the artifact. Each time he touched it, a faint vibration ran through his palm, like the bell had a heartbeat. At midnight, he awoke suddenly. The town was silent until the sound began. Bells, not from the chapel, but from everywhere, soft, distant, echoing through fog and stone. He looked out his window. A figure stood near the chapel gate, holding a lantern. Elias rushed outside, calling out, "Dagger, Harker." The figure turned. It was indeed the historian, but his face was pale, his eyes clouded white. "They ring again," Harker whispered. "It's too late." Before Elias could move, the fog thickened, swallowing Harker whole. The sound of bells rose, deafening, until Elias collapsed to his knees. When he awoke, it was dawn. Harker was gone. But in his room, lying on the floor, was another bell, identical to the first. The truth of the bells, determined to uncover the truth, Elias traveled to the Ravenshade archives, hidden beneath the old mayor's hall. There he found parchment records dating back to 1241. One account, written by a monk named Father Lorian, revealed the origin. "We did not build the chapel for worship. We built it as a prison. Beneath Ravenshade sleeps a voice from before man's time. The bells bind it. Should they fall silent or sound unbidden, the voice will awaken." Elias realized what Harker had done. He must have disturbed the bindings. The bells were not meant to summon God, but to suppress a curse. He rushed back to the chapel. The fog had turned black. The tower loomed above like a sentinel. From inside, faint singing echoed, a haunting, melodic hum that didn't sound human. The awakening inside the chapel. The pews had shifted, twisted unnaturally as if the wood itself had grown alive. The bronze bells Elias had found began vibrating violently, the carvings glowing faintly. And then, the great church bell above began to ring on its own. The floor cracked open, and through the fissures seeped a dark mist, cold and sentient. Faces formed within it, whispering fragments of prayers and screams. From the crypt below, something rose. A figure draped in tattered robes, its head crowned with melted bronze, as if fused to the bell metal itself. Its voice was both human and not. "You freed the silence, Elias. You let it breathe." Elias tried to flee, but the door slammed shut. The figure reached out, its touch freezing the air. The bells kept ringing faster, louder, until the roof collapsed. The next morning, villagers found the chapel in ruins. The bell tower had crumbled, and Elias Moreau was nowhere to be found. Only his notebook remained, pages soaked but legible. The last entry read, "The bells don't call the faithful. They hold the damned." Hoapiloghi years later, Ravenshade became deserted. The fog never lifted again. Travelers who wander too close swear they hear bells in the mist, even though the tower no longer stands. Some say Elias's spirit roams the ruins, lantern in hand, trying to silence the sound. Others claim the bells themselves whisper his name, waiting for someone else curious enough to listen. And when the wind blows through the valley on moonless nights, you can still hear it faintly. The bells of Ravenshade ringing for the lost.